Sonic, I'm actually a little bit curious, Big Sonic. How do we know that what like everything is around us is real? How do we know that we're not just all in a dream right now, Big Sonic? How do we know anything, Big Sonic? Well, Small Sonic, we honestly can't be so certain that we're all not just in a dream. We are all sort of ignorant about our world and our reality. Ignorance is kind of plaguing us for a long time now, Small Sonic. Ignorance. Big Sonic, what do you mean by ignorance? How do we know that we're not all just in a dream right now, Big Sonic? Small Sonic, quite honestly, it's very hard for me to even begin to discuss whether or not we're in a dream or whether or not everything around us is real or fake. It's quite honestly impossible to even begin to talk about this because I do believe, Small Sonic, that we're all a little bit ignorant. We'll never truly know the full extent of our world and our reality. All we can do is guess, and we're sort of stuck in ignorance, I guess. Big Sonic, ignorance, what does that mean? That word ignorance, what does that mean, Big Sonic? Well, Small Sonic, ignorance is when you're not certain of anything. You're kind of unaware of the true nature of something. For example, ignorance is like you're ignorant of the laws of physics, and so you get out of you're unaware of the laws of physics, Small Sonic. So there's a window, and you jump out and you break your legs because you don't understand that gravity exists, and if you jump out of a window, you're gonna fall and break your legs. Ignorance is when we are not so certain and sure of the true nature of something. Ignorance is when we are completely unfamiliar with something, with the true nature of something and the extent of something. Big Sonic, how do we know that we're not all just in a dream? How do we know any of this is actually real, Big Sonic, and that it's not just all a dream in someone's mind? Well, Small Sonic, again, ignorance. We are all ignorant for sure. We'll never know if we're in a dream or if everything around us is actually real. We're all more or less ignorant about these types of things. Big Sonic, you said that ignorance is when we don't know the true nature of something, and you said that if I didn't know the laws of physics and I tried jumping out of a window, I'll break my legs. Is that what ignorance is, Big Sonic? That we're just blissfully unaware, not really properly informed on something? Quite honestly, Small Sonic, ignorance is when we don't really properly grasp what's around us and etc. And stuff. Ignorance is quite dangerous, actually, Small Sonic. Big Sonic, how do we know what is actually true, though? How do we know that we're not just completely ignorant of everything around us, and we're not just completely deluding ourselves constantly? How do we know anything for sure and certain? How do we know the truth with a capital T, Big Sonic? Small Sonic, quite honestly, we don't know anything for sure in absolute terms. We don't know if we're not all just dreaming and we're in a dream, or this is a simulation. It's all speculation. But ignorance is quite honestly something that we have to make sure we're not suffering from. Small Sonic, Big Sonic, ignorance, is that when we don't know the true nature of something, Big Sonic? Small Sonic, ignorance is when you're not familiar with something. You're ignorant, you don't understand the true nature of something, you don't understand the full extent of something. Ignorance, Small Sonic, is when we are not properly dealing with the world around us. Ignorance is when we are completely uncertain, uninformed, unfamiliar with something. Big Sonic, what? Ignorance, is that when we don't understand something properly? Yes, Small Sonic, ignorance is when we don't understand something properly. Big Sonic, how do we know that we're not in a dream? We are kind of ignorant about what is the actual true nature of our world. How do we know we're not all just in a dream right now, Big Sonic? Small Sonic, honestly, we don't really know if we're in a dream or not. It's all again, ignorance. Ignorance, we are all sort of ignorant about these types of things and these deep philosophical questions, Big Sonic. I'm Big Sonic, you're Small Sonic, messing my words up. It's okay, Big Sonic, you're getting a little bit lightheaded, aren't you, from talking to me for a long time now? But Big Sonic, how do we know that this is not all just a dream? Are we really, isn't ignorance, how do we know that we aren't just innately ignorant and we will never know the true extent of our world and our reality? How do we know that our eyes aren't just deceiving us and everything around us is actually real? Are we just forever doomed to be ignorant, Big Sonic? Small Sonic, these are very deep philosophical questions, and you're making me very lightheaded, Small Sonic. That's cool. I call you Big Sonic. See, I'm kind of at loss. I'm losing focus and concentration. We'll never truly know what is actually around us and whether or not our world is actually real, Small Sonic. It's all a big fat mystery. It's quite honestly impossible to understand everything around us carefully and properly, but it's fun to speculate, isn't it? Big Sonic, is this all just a dream or are we actually real? Again, Small Sonic, it's all speculation. I'm feeling too lightheaded. Ignorance, we'll never truly know the full extent of our world, and I'm gonna have to go and lie down and think about this now. You're making me too lightheaded, Small Sonic. Okay, Big Sonic, I guess I better come and help you out with that. Yo! The topic of this video is going to be about ignorance. Ignorance. Now, this video is like very important because I do believe that a lot of us human beings are like very ignorant, misinformed. A lot of us, we don't know the truth with a capital T, and this video is so important for you guys because ignorance is like such an important like topic to talk about and to think about and to contemplate on ignorance. I do believe that the majority of humanity and mankind, not only just now, but for like a lot of our history have been ignorant. A lot of people in our past, in our history, the majority of us human beings, even in the past, even right now, currently, are ignorant, have been suffering from ignorance. What does this word ignorance mean? What is it? It's like a weird terminology, ignorance. You should see like a proper dictionary definition on the screen, but to put it into my own words, ignorance is when us human beings, we are not familiar with the truth with a capital T. We are misled, misinformed. We're going down the wrong path. Ignorance is like when us human beings, we are not like familiar with the truth with a capital T. That's what ignorance is. Ignorance is like when us human beings, we are like blinded from the ultimate reality of our world, our universe, and etc. and stuff like that. Ignorance is like when us human beings, we are not familiar with the truth with a capital T. This is like what the word ignorance kind of translates to and means. It's very important for you guys to think about this, to contemplate on this, on this topic, like this whole concept and terminology of ignorance. Ignorance plagues our world, has been plaguing us human beings for all of our history. Ignorance, our ancestors were extremely ignorant, and at least now us human beings we're becoming a lot more enlightened, a lot of us human beings, we're becoming more familiar with the truth with a capital T. But if you look at our history for a long, like so many of us human beings have been like plagued by ignorance and stupidity. Ignorance, what does this word mean? To put it into my own words, ignorance is like when us human beings, we don't know the truth with a capital T. We're kind of like in the dark about so many different types of things relating to our world and the ultimate truthful reality, the objective world. Ignorance is like when us human beings, we are not like aligned to the objective world. We are like sort of like in the shadows regarding the objective world. We don't understand everything to do with the objective world, our ultimate like reality, the truth with a capital T. We are quite simply misled in the darkness, and that is like quite honestly a tragedy, isn't it? Ignorance. The topic of this video is ignorance. You have to really carefully contemplate on this on the whole concept and like topic of ignorance. I do believe a lot of us human beings we're so ignorant and stupid. What do I mean by ignorant? Like, how many things do you know? Like, carefully contemplate on this. Are you properly familiar with the whole like how many things are you like think about this carefully. Ignorance. What are you like certain about? Create like a list of things that you're very, very sure are true and certain. You're certain about. Maybe perhaps you might be fully certain about the fact that you were born on this specific day, in this specific time, in this specific place. You might be certain about that. What about like specifically like especially this relates to politics? What about religion? Are you so certain about like? Especially typically like when a lot of us human beings we get born into like specific like religions and faith traditions, and we typically we stick to the religions that we were brought up with, and we kind of degrade the religions that other people follow. Typically that is very true. If you're like a Christian, how familiar are you with the Quran and Islam? If you're a Muslim, how familiar are you with the Bible and Christianity? If you're a Jew, how familiar are you with like, oh fuck, fly in my room, man. If you're a Jew or like, yeah, maybe how familiar are you with like the Quran and Islam or the Bible and Christianity, specifically the Gospels? If you're a Jew, you probably you know a lot about the Old Testament, because the Old Testament's like the Hebrew Bible, they kind of, which relates to Judaism anyway. But if you like any type of like how like a lot of us human beings, we are so ignorant and dumb and stupid. We don't know anything for sure. We like to think that we're so like enlightened and smart and bright, but a lot of us are so ignorant and dumb. Ignorance is so like it's so deadly. This is so important. Ignorance. Imagine if like us human beings, like think about it. I do believe that definitely like a millennia ago, 1,000 years ago, nobody really knew the laws of physics properly. I think about this actually as like in the skit, the Sonic the Hedgehog skit, the big Sonic, small Sonic, the laws of physics. Imagine you don't know about the laws of physics, and so you go out, there's like a window side, and you go and you jump out of the window, and you don't know about the laws of physics, and you think that if you just jump out the window, it's gonna be alright. You can just carefully fly upwards or something similar. You're not familiar with the laws of physics or gravity or etc. and stuff. So you go out, like hypothetically, like let's just say you're like a person born like a billion, not a billion, but like 1,000, couple thousand years ago. There's like a window. You're like at some type of like you're like at the top of something, and there's like a window, a crude, like maybe 1,000 years ago. What would a window look like 1,000 years ago? I don't know, but you're not familiar with the laws of physics. You're ignorant about the laws of physics and the law of gravity, etc. And so there's like a window side, and you jump out and you break your legs. See, ignorance is so important that you are not ignorant and retarded. Ignorance, you must try your hardest to become enlightened. It's so important to understand the objective world, the ultimate truth regarding our world and our reality. Ignorance is so horrible, guys. You get the laws of physics. There's like a window out. You're like at the top of a building, but you don't know about the laws of physics or the law of gravity, and so you just jump out the window, and you don't know about the laws of physics or the law of gravity and stuff. You're not familiar with this, so you jump out of the window and you think that you can fly, or you think that you're gonna be alright if you jump out the window, but in actuality you're gonna like collapse to your death. See, ignorance is like very deadly. Ignorance can be deadly, and I do encourage you guys to try your hardest to become enlightened. Enlightenment is like what we all should be reaching for. Ignorance is like has been plaguing mankind, humanity for countless millennia now. Ignorance is so like it's quite literally deadly. I do believe so. Again, the laws of physics, gravity. A lot of us, we now take it for granted. All of like this up to date, like very superb, like medical, scientific knowledge that we have now. A lot of us human beings, we take it for granted. Like all of this advanced like knowledge that we have now, medical knowledge, scientific knowledge, and the knowledge regarding like the world around us, and like the laws of physics, all of these types of things, we take it for granted. Like all of our advanced, like very sophisticated like knowledge that we have now, us human beings, we take it for granted. Because think about it, all of the knowledge that we have now, it's like a lot of us, we take it for granted. The laws of physics, all this advanced medical scientific knowledge, we do take it for granted. Imagine like the laws of physics. You are not familiar with the laws of physics. You are not familiar with like the law of gravity, and so whatever. And there's like a window side, and you jump out of the window, and you plummet to your death. But you think you can fly? See, ignorance is very deadly, and it can literally cost your life. Ignorance. I do believe we're still ignorant. So many of us human beings, we're still so ignorant and stupid. Only a handful of us human beings are like very like intellectually bright. Only a handful of us human beings have like any like great intellectual potential. I do believe the majority of mankind is like forever like doomed to be ignorant and stupid and retarded. How many things are you like very certain about? A lot of us human beings, we think that we know a lot about things. Like a lot of us human beings, we think we know more than we actually do. That is so true. How much do you actually know? Like a good little experiment. Do you really like? Let's say you're like born, you're from Europe or America. How much do you know about China or Chinese culture? We do, a lot of us human beings, we do stereotype, and we have like a lot of bigotries and prejudice to other like the foreign nationalities and people and etc. and stuff like that. How familiar are you with like some other type of country that you have never been to? Obviously, it's kind of like a lot of you be like, well, why would I care about a country I've never been to? I don't know. I'm just trying to like really illustrate now that ignorance is like so like horrible. Always, you should try your hardest not to be ignorant and stupid. Ignorance is gonna quite literally, it can cost you your life. Ignorance can cost you your life, guys. Ignorance can literally cost you your life. Ignorance is horrendous, it's horrible. In the laws of physics, law of gravity, I do believe that 1,000 years ago, there was like probably like some type of prehistoric man, etc. and stuff like that. He obviously wouldn't know anything about the laws of physics, law of gravity and stuff. He probably like there were probably like countless like tales of like people in high places, they jump off and then they believe that it's all going to be alright, but they actually just plummet to their death. I do believe, we take it for granted. Again, all the up-to-date like sophisticated medical knowledge we have now. Millennia ago, people like there were like people that were just dying because they didn't know any better. I'm not even kidding. In the Middle Ages, medieval period, especially like in the advent of the Black Death, people like they were literally dying. They were suffering from all these different types of medical complications, but they didn't have, they didn't know any better and stuff. They didn't have any proper medical knowledge and stuff. And so they were suffering from all these medical complications and didn't know how to treat these medical complications properly and stuff. And they had, if you look at the medieval period, the Middle Ages, ignorance was like super common, not just in that time period, even like before, even in the ancient world, but even specifically the Middle Ages, people like, you would see like doctors, like people getting their arms and legs cut off. People like, they would think that would like benefit them in any type of way, to have their arms and legs cut off with like bloodletting. Do you know what that is? Like when you like pierce your hand or like some part of your body and then you let blood drain out. That, and people in the past assumed that would like be like good for like your health. I don't know. Ignorance, guys. Ignorance can fucking kill you. Literally, it used to kill so many different types of people. Our ancestors weren't familiar with the laws of physics, the laws of gravity, and etc. and stuff. And I do believe there's like probably countless like tales of like people like, especially in the past, they were like on high places and they jumped off and they thought they could fly and they plummeted to their death. Think about that so carefully. Ignorance can literally kill you, man. Ignorance. I do believe still, even up to like even now, currently in our modern day and age, a lot of us, we're still so fucking ignorant and stupid. How many things are you like very certain about? Obviously, maybe perhaps like personal things like your age, who you are as a person, your background, maybe your ethnicity, race, but like, what about like religion, politics? Like, what about like the history of different people? We're still like very ignorant and dumb, and I do encourage you guys to reach for enlightenment. I know it sucks and it's very difficult to climb out of like this type of pit of ignorance and darkness, etc. But you gotta reach for the light. Reach for enlightenment. I always encourage you guys to reach for enlightenment. That is like so important. Enlightenment. That is kind of like a theme of my channel. Is like really to encourage enlightenment thinking. Ignorance is horrendous, guys. Ignorance has been plaguing mankind, humanity for like countless millennia now, eons. So many of our ancestors were like fucking getting killed. They were literally like so ignorant and uninformed about so many different types of things, and they were like literally that would cost them their lives. Think about it. We take it for granted, like all of the up-to-date like medical knowledge, scientific knowledge that we have now. In the past, 1,000 years ago, the laws of physics, again, gravity, some geezer would go up to a high place, he would jump off, and he wouldn't know any better, and he would just plummet to his death, because he was ignorant. He was ignorant about the laws of physics and the laws of gravity. Ignorance is so like, it can be quite deadly and like scary. So you guys gotta like reach for enlightenment, reach for the light. That's why I always encourage in my videos, you guys, ignorance is gonna like literally cost you your lives. Ignorance is horrendous. Ignorance has been plaguing our ancestors for countless millennia now, eons. If you're ignorant, you're gonna like be in like for a big surprise. Well, what does this word ignorance mean? Ignorance is when us human beings were unfamiliar with the truth with a capital T. We are not informed about the full extent of our world and our reality and etc. We're in the darkness. We're like in a pit of darkness. It's kind of ignorance. It's like when us human beings, we are like fucking completely like cut off from like enlightenment. Again, enlightenment, the light. You gotta reach for the light. Enlightenment, that is so important, guys. You cannot like stay in a pit of darkness and ignorance. Ignorance, 1,000 years ago, think about this so carefully, 1,000 years ago, I do believe so, there was like countless tales, stories about like guys going to high places and then jumping off and then plummeting to their death. I do believe so, because 1,000 years ago, like people weren't familiar with the laws of physics and etc. and stuff like that, and the laws of gravity. Ignorance would literally, so many of our ancestors were literally were prematurely dying because of ignorance, because of stupidity, because they didn't know any better. They didn't know about the laws of physics or the laws of gravity, and so they would go to high places and they would jump off and plummet to their death. They didn't have any proper medical knowledge, so like, you know, all these dumb like medical treatments, especially in the medieval period. Literally look into like the medieval period, the Middle Ages, especially during like the advent of the Black Death. People like, they were getting like, people were suffering from like some serious disease and medical complications, and like, you know, like the doctors, the physicians, what they would do is like they would like pierce like their hand or some body part, or they would cut off the fingers and they'll let all the blood drain out. The bloodletting, look into like blood, the whole like Middle Ages, and look into like how the medical treatments regarding like bloodletting and all that type of stuff. And damn, guys, ignorance can fucking cost you your life. You gotta be so careful about this, guys. For countless eons, millennia now, our ancestors were like prematurely dying because they didn't know any better. They were super ignorant. Again, the laws of physics, the laws of gravity. Think about how we take it for granted, like all of this up-to-date, superb medical, scientific knowledge that we have now. 1,000 years ago, people like, I do believe so, there was like countless tales of people going to like high places, jumping off and then plummeting to their death. Ignorance is so scary, guys. I do believe that a lot of us human beings were so ignorant and dumb. You have to actually, you know what, one of the first steps in this to kind of like helping us deal with this whole ignorance issue and problems is one of the first things you need to do about like to kind of fix your ignorance is to like admit that you're ignorant. That's so important. You have to like recognize there is a problem to begin with, and then you have to try and fix this problem by like becoming more enlightened, by doing more research and careful studying about different things. Ignorance, guys, you cannot be ignorant. Ignorance has been like kind of plaguing our ancestors for ages now, eons, millennia. Ignorance is like super like terrifying, guys. Ignorance, our ancestors were prematurely getting killed off and dying because of ignorance. Ignorance, guys, you gotta like, ignorance is like so scary, guys. It can literally cost you your life. Ignorance, guys, ignorance. For countless millennia, eons now, our ancestors were like, they were like getting like torn apart, prematurely dying, suffering from so many different types of issues, all because of ignorance. Because if you're ignorant, you're not properly informed about something, then you're not going to be able to deal with that issue properly. Like cancer. Imagine you don't know anything about cancer, and so you got like all this blood coming out of your body, but you don't know why. You're ignorant, so you don't know what's going on with your body. You don't even know the fact that cancer is a thing, and so you're ignorant, and so you're gonna die prematurely. Ignorance is so scary, guys. You gotta try your hardest to beat through any type of ignorance you might have. Ignorance is what's gonna cause you to die prematurely, I'm telling you for sure. There's like a bottle of poison. I think I used this example before. There's a bottle of poison, and you don't know that this bottle of poison in actuality is like a bottle. Yeah, I mean, there's like a bottle of poison, but you think it's like a bottle of fresh, clean water. You don't know that in actuality, this bottle of poison is actually. This bottle of water, supposed water, is actually poison. It's gonna kill you. So you drink it, and then you're gonna die. See, ignorance. Again, like a bottle of poison, but you think it's a bottle of water, clean, fresh bottle of water, but you don't know that this bottle of water is actually a bottle of poison. So you drink it, and you think it's just clean glass of water, and then you're having all these issues with your belly, and you don't know why, but because you thought it was just because you're ignorant, you don't know that this bottle of water, or supposed water, is actually a bottle of poison. Anyway, ignorance. Definitely in the medieval period, even like in the ancient times, so many of us, like human beings, were so fucking ignorant and dumb and lost. Ignorance is terrifying, guys. Ignorance it can literally cost you your life. Ignorance has been plaguing our ancestors for countless millennia now. You must try your hardest to reach for enlightenment. As a human being, there's literally nothing else that you should be concerned about. The only thing that you should be concerned about is reaching for enlightenment. But what is enlightenment? It's kind of like dubious and vague. What is enlightenment? What does that word mean, enlightenment? Does it mean that you need to like be like a person that reads a lot of books? I don't know. Reach for enlightenment. There's nothing else to do, to be honest. Ignorance, guys. Ignorance. Our ancestors were like plagued by ignorance. Our ancestors were constantly like dealing with like ignorance and etc. And so they didn't know any better. They're prematurely dying in like so many different types of ways because of ignorance. In the Middle Ages, the Black Death. I do believe so. In the advent of the Black Death, especially maybe in Europe, so many people were like suffering from like health problems. They would have to get their arms and limbs cut off. Bloodletting, all these dumb medical treatments, because the doctors, the physicians, they were ignorant about like human anatomy and how our bodies actually function and work, and so they had all these dumbass treatments made up just to fix these medical issues and problems and complications. Ignorance, guys. Think about it. Imagine like laws of physics, law of gravity. Imagine we didn't like some of the smart people in our past. They didn't like properly figure these things out. Today we would be like so much worse off. You would see so many people jumping off buildings trying to like fly. Because they don't know about the laws of physics, the laws of gravity. Germ theory as well. Germ theory, think about how revolutionary that is. Germs, these little things in our bodies that cause all these medical issues and complications. Imagine if like a lot of our smart people in the past didn't figure out anything to do with like germ theory. And so today now, you would see like people that have all these issues, they don't understand why they have these issues. Germ theory. Ignorance, guys. It's seriously, it's very important. Ignorance can cost you your life. Ignorance is fucking atrocious. Countless millennia now, our ancestors were like literally prematurely dying because they were ignorant. They didn't know about the laws of physics, the laws of gravity. They didn't know about germ theory, so they didn't have any knowledge about germ theory. So they would like eat like some dirty thing from because especially in the jungles of Africa, not even in Africa, in like Europe as well. And like you see like all these like wild like vegetation, our ancestors would put that in their mouth, and they wouldn't know about germ theory, and they wouldn't know about bacteria and malaria and all this, and they would eat, and they would digest it, and their bellies would get all fucking ruptured, and they would be vomiting their blood out. But they wouldn't know, and they wouldn't have like any proper explanation as to why. See, this is why it's so important, guys, that you ignorance. A lot of our ancestors were like literally dying prematurely because of ignorance. You should always reach for enlightenment, but to put it into like, to make things a lot more relevant, like ignorance, especially relating to like politics, religion, you must try your hardest to become as informed as you possibly can be. Don't just give out dumbass opinions on things, especially like regarding religion and politics and perhaps science as well, maybe to some extent. Ignorance, guys, ignorance is what's gonna like fucking, you're going to like suffer in so many different types of ways if you aren't going to be trying to reach for enlightenment. Ignorance has been like plaguing our ancestors countless millennia now, eons. And there's no excuse now for you guys to be ignorant. You must try as hard as you possibly can to be as well researched and studied. There's like books, all that. Look, the books. You should, guys, you should like have at least a library of books that you should be reading. Anyway, I don't want this video to be too long. You must try as hard as you possibly can to reach for enlightenment and to fight ignorance, and that's about it, guys. Make sure you read a lot of books as well. That's about it, guys.